precipitation and temperature anomalies, as well as your overall forecast at the end of the video, so make sure you do stay tuned all the way until the end. Now, before we do get into it, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload, since I do make these videos daily for the most part now, and I've been doing them daily for the past couple of months, so definitely do consider subscribing. Now, let's get right into the forecast here. Now, let's start off with your temperature anomaly forecast. We're going to start off with your above average temperatures. You have one area of above average temperatures there for the southwestern United States, where I am expecting slightly above average conditions for this month for March. This is going to be going from the 1st of March all the way until the 31st of March, and this can be an overall average. So there will be a couple of cold days, of course, but for the most part, it should be a fairly warm month if you do live in the southwest. Now, we do have this orange shade here, which indicates moderately above average conditions, and that's over Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico, as well as southwestern Texas, where I do expect some even warmer than normal conditions to arise. And you've had this high pressure that's been in place off the shore of California and Baja California, and that's really been pumping in some warmer conditions as well as some drier conditions, which you'll see in my precipitation forecast, which we'll get to right after the temperature forecast. Now, we have some below average conditions, and this is the first time in a couple of months actually that I've put below average conditions for parts in the eastern United States, because it has been so incredibly warm over the eastern United States, and you really don't need me to tell you that if you do live in the east. And it's been a very warm winter, but I think it is going to cool down for March, and really I think you've been seeing a weakening in the pattern the past couple of weeks. The latter part of February has really been breaking down the pattern, so I think by early March, mid-March, your pattern is going to be completely broken down. You've been stuck in the same pattern for 9 weeks, so eventually it's going to break down. This has been a very long-lasting pattern. Usually patterns last for about 4 to 6 weeks. This one's been going on for about 9 weeks now, so of course it's going to break down sometime, and you still have the opportunity for a little bit of snow as you get into March. March still can produce some snowfall, and actually a lot of Marches do produce snowfall for much of the United States, so definitely don't count out your winter just yet. You still do have March, and March looks to be quite chilly over the eastern United States. You even have a second shade of below average, moderately below average here over parts of the south central and southeastern United States, and moving through the Ozarks, and you are going to be experiencing some even colder than normal conditions. This is where I expect it to be colder for more of the month, and this is also where I have more confidence in it being colder for much of the month. Also notice how over the north central and northwestern United States and the northern and central Rockies, you're all just not even shaded in a color. Now, this is where it really can go either way, and it's really going to be very close to average over these areas. So really, if you do live in those areas, definitely expect quite an average month in terms of temperatures at least. Now, here's your precipitation anomaly forecast. You're going to be experiencing some below average conditions if you do live in parts of the southwestern and northwestern United States as well, where I am expecting some slightly below average conditions in terms of precipitation. And again, you do have the high pressure that's blocking over parts of Southern California and Baja California off the shore there, and I do expect that to really funnel your storms to the north and west, and north of that high pressure and ridge. That's going to allow some systems to kind of track down to the south and east. So that is going to really miss your area if you do live in the southwestern United States, and you're really going to miss out on most of these storms. Now, of course, you're going to get a little bit of precipitation most likely, but it's really going to average out to be at least slightly below average and even moderately below average as you get into California, Nevada, and Arizona. Now, let's get into your above average conditions as far as precipitation. Now, I am expecting above average conditions pretty much everywhere east of the Mississippi River, as well as Texas and Oklahoma, except for parts of Florida and southern Georgia. That's where I'm expecting just average conditions. But for the rest of the eastern United States, expect a pretty above average month. I expect multiple of these systems that you've seen quite a bit this winter, where they kind of ride the spine of the Appalachians, and they bring a lot of snow to Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas even, and Oklahoma, Kansas. Those areas have been really getting pummeled with some snowfall this winter, and I think it is going to continue as you get into March. And of course, I do think you are actually going to get a couple storms for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. You already saw your first storm for many people in the Southeast, in North Carolina, Virginia, just a couple days ago. So definitely, I think you will see more of these types of systems as you get into March, maybe one or two of them, and definitely that can eat away at your snowfall deficit that much of you guys over the eastern United States have been experiencing. Now, I even have a second shade of above average, and this is where I really think most of the storms are going to track, and really along that area is where you get the most precipitation and the heaviest precipitation. That's why I'm putting really the spine of that above average right along the Appalachians, and to the west of that, that's where I think you're going to see the most precipitation. And of course, it's going to fluctuate to the east and west, but for the most part, I think this is going to be really where you're going to see the most precipitation this entire month. Now, let's start uncovering what all of these colors mean on this map. This is your overall forecast, and this is going to give you a good idea as to what your March should play out like. Now, let's start off here in the southwest. We're going to go from west to east here. We have warm and dry here over parts of the southwest, anywhere in that orange shading over parts of California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. I am expecting warm and dry conditions. This is where you really are going to feel the most of the effects from this ridge that I do think is going to last over parts of off the shore of Southern California and Baja California. Really, that is going to play a big factor into what is going to happen this month in March for you guys in the Southwest. Drier conditions here, so nothing really going to be too warm over parts of the northwest. It should be quite average in terms of temperatures, but you will be experiencing some drier than normal conditions in terms of precipitation. Now, we do have a flip-flop area here, and this is going to be through really in between all of these layers, in between areas in the dry and warm and dry areas, kind of in Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, as well as another area there for parts of Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and into Kansas there. I am expecting flip-flop conditions. Now, what this means is that you're really going to be in between a lot of these different temperatures, and also different gradients of temperatures. So some days it's going to be warm, some days it's going to be cold. Also, some days it's going to be drier than wetter. So definitely it is going to really flip-flop in terms of your temperatures and your precipitation. You're really in between both of these areas of warm and cold, as well as dry and wet. So it's really going to be just flip-flopping around in terms of your temperatures and as well as your precipitation. So it's going to be definitely a very wild month if you do live in parts of the South Central as well as the northwestern United States for the month of March. Now, we are going to be experiencing less mountain snow, I do believe, over parts of the Rockies. Now, you guys, of course, you're going to get snow over parts of the Rockies, and I do think you will see snow, but I don't think it's going to be as much as you guys normally average, which is quite a lot over parts of the higher elevations, just because I do think it is going to be a bit of a drier month, and I do think a lot of your storms are actually going to originate right around the Colorado, northern New Mexico, panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma area, and that's going to really where most of your systems have spawned this winter, and I think they are going to continue to do that, and that will provide less mountain snow for areas in the Rockies. Now, let's look at your average area. Anywhere in this dark gray, this is where I'm experiencing, you're going to be experiencing just average conditions, so really nothing that's going to be too out of the ordinary, and you should have average temperatures and average precipitation, and you could, of course, tilt a little bit above or below average, but for the most part it should feel pretty average this month. And of course, you're gonna have a bit of cold days, you're gonna have a bit of warm days, but on paper it should average out to right around your normal. Now, here's where I'm expecting it to be wetter over parts of the southeastern United States, and you've already seen it in February and January, some very wet conditions, and I think that will continue to a lesser extent in March, but I still do think you are going to have quite a bit of storminess over parts of the southeastern United States, anywhere shaded in that green. Now, here's where I'm expecting more severe weather to be expected through March, and of course, you're going to start to get into severe weather season. Usually March isn't too active, but as you get into April, May, and then kind of even lingering there into June and July, you do expect more severe weather, and then of course you get into hurricane season, and I'll be covering all of that on my channel, so make sure you are subscribed. But I do think you are going to have a lot of severe weather this month over parts of southern Texas, all of Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and through all of Mississippi and Alabama, as well as a little bit there of Florida and Georgia, where I am expecting, again, increased severe weather, and I will be tracking those severe weather events, and many of them are going to come as you get those storm systems to lift to the north. You will have a little bit more moisture being pulled up from the Gulf of Mexico, which will allow some severe storms to actually appear. Now, in this blue, I am expecting multiple snowstorms to occur over parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, and you've already seen your fair share of snowstorms this winter, and you guys are running right around normal and even a little bit above normal in some areas. But I do think you are going to push above average actually over parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, where you have actually been seeing quite a good winter this winter, and I do think you're going to see more of those storms again riding up the Appalachians, and I think you will see some backside snowfall getting into parts of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. I do think you're going to see quite a bit of snowstorms this month. Now, here's where I'm expecting above average lake effect. Now, your lakes are very, very warm for where they should be. This warm winter has really helped with getting a lot of lake effect. Actually, it's kind of counterintuitive, but as you get less ice on the lakes, that actually allows some more evaporation. That, of course, will allow some more lake effect. So you will see a lot of lake effect, I do think, getting into March. And March, April can actually get a lot of lake effect, especially as you get further to the north where those lake effect areas are. It stays below 32 for much of the time. So you will actually be able, if you get any precipitation on those lakes, it will be some pretty good snowfall, and you could get a couple of inches of snowfall in the form of lake effect in March. Now, here's the final layer here, and this is where I'm expecting to get some colder conditions through parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, as well as there for parts of southern Georgia and Florida there, where I am expecting some colder conditions to occur. You will see a couple of times where your colder Arctic air will not necessarily Arctic air, but colder air from northern Canada, northern central Canada is going to dip down for a day or two and maybe even last for 3-4 days, which we haven't seen yet this winter, but I definitely think it can happen as you get a little bit more inconsistency up in the Arctic regions as that polar vortex starts to break down. I do think you could get a bit of cold shots, and this month definitely looks to be fairly cold over parts of the northeast mid-Atlantic as well as parts of the southeast, where you should be experiencing some pretty cold conditions for the month of March. Now, that is going to wrap the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turn on notifications as I do make these videos daily. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please consider doing those things, and definitely I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.